Okay, AJ, thank you for joining. We are actually in our new setup. Just getting everything situated real quick before we started. We are going to finish this, tearing it up today. Last night we did, let me find it, we did this one. And we are going live on YouTube as well. So if you're following us on YouTube, we are over there as well. I'm just trying to get that angled up. Dragon, thank you for joining. I'm doing good. We are in our new setup. It's not much, but it's something. It's better than being in that kitchen. Only downstairs, I wish I had a fan. But I'm right next to a vent, but not a lot of AC comes out of it. So this is the first time I've actually been on in a couple of days. Taking a little hiatus. But we are back in action. BD, thank you for joining us. We are going to continue work on our Hive fleet. Love to hear that, AJ. Love to hear that. I wish that I could have originally turned this into my studio, except for we do have a little one, so this became his playroom. So some of his toys are in the background. My day is going great, BD. We got the new setup all set up. It's not much, it's just an old desk with my paints and stuff on it. Eventually we're going to update it to get actual like paint racks and other stuff. Maybe get a new light up in there so that we can see a little bit better. But beyond that, everything's good. We're going live on YouTube and TikTok today. Our live goal is 6 tiny dimes. You guys get 6. You guys up that gift. I cannot talk today. You guys gift 6 tiny dimes. We get, or you guys get to pick the next miniature that we buy. Gray Knight, thank you for joining us. The newer sets do look good. I've seen a lot of people giving kudos to the Scaventide box set. I personally don't have it yet, but that's one I do plan on getting just because once I do start getting more into AOS, Skavens are going to be my go-to for them. Now hold on, we do got the Tyrant Guard with the Tyranids. We don't want to go that far. Best in Age of Sigmar, yes. Best in all? No. Yes, Skaven is the best when it comes to Age of Sigmar, but as you can see, I more prefer the large, let's swarm them in numbers type of playstyle. Geezy, I didn't even see you join. Thank you for the likes, though. I appreciate it. Our gift goal today is 6 Tiny Dinies. You guys get 6 Tiny Dinies. You get to pick the next Tyranid box that we buy. Dragon, you know we're going to fight on that one, buddy. That's better. The Nids are supreme. Yeah, hopefully by next weekend I'll have that light fixed so I got a little more light. It's a little dim where I'm sitting, but it works. Nick, you played Necrons. That's true. You can't be bio-harvested if you're not bio. However, I heard a rumor they're talking about making some lore where the Necrons can actually be affected by the Nids. I don't know how they plan on doing it. So how's everyone's weekend going so far? It would be interesting to see how that plays out. Personally, what I think is going to happen is they're just going to say that, oh, the Nids have evolved. Making burgers, very nice. What kind of burgers you making? Bacon chili cheese, nice. Very nice. Glad you got some packing undone, and I'm glad you got to play D&D. My buddy's got a campaign he's about to run. He's really excited to have me play in again. It'd be the first time we've played together in over a year. Just because we've been playing in different groups, and I didn't mesh well with the last group. I've been doing okay. Nothing really to write home about. We went shopping. We went to the zoo yesterday. Little man had a blast. We got to see a bunch of baby animals. So my go-to class is really no set class. The reason I say that is because I have found ways to thematically, and I'll explain what I mean by thematically here in a minute, make every class overpowered. So let's use my last class I've ever played, which was Barbarian. My go-to race for Barbarian has always been Dragonborn, and I always go Totem Bear. Because I have my own backstory for all of my Dragonborns being from a nomadic tribe. Give me 1 second. I'm going to take a quick sip. So, I had just gotten Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, and I wanted to try out the Gem Dragons. Now, I knew that going into it that the Emerald Dragonborn resisted psychic damage naturally. So me being me, my first thought was, let's make a psychic totem bear. And yeah, he was so powerful the DM had to make a level 20 DM NPC as the big bad evil guy. Now with Rogue, which is my second go-to, I usually go Tabaxi. With Tabaxi, I also with Rogue though, I always go Swashbuckler. The reason I go Swashbuckler is because I always like to pull off the Jack Sparrow vibe. What do I mean by the Jack Sparrow vibe, you may be asking? So you go Swashbuckler Rogue, you put your backstory however you want, but it has to end a specific way. It could be pirates or it could be the government, however you want to wrap it around, has sank your ship. The person that is captain raised you from a young age. And from then, what ended up happening was he raised you, he taught you the ways of being a pirate, and then he gave you the choice. Go out and find our next job. So you go out, you find a job you think is pretty good. Pretty good pay, pretty good, sizable amount of money, and pretty easy. So while you're going out there and doing that, you get all of the cargo on the ship, and the benefactor wants to come along with you. What happens is the captain goes down, realizes what the cargo is. The cargo can be any humanoid creature, be it tabaxi, goblin, orc, gnoll, whatever it really is. And then tells you, remember the rules. Humanoids are not cargo. He disciplines you, well then they get free. All hell breaks loose on the ship. Ship starts sinking because either, like I said, a rival pirate group or the Empire or whatever government faction your DM is having has found you and began attacking your ship. Once that happens, you go under, and then you take you write in your backstory so it's easily accessible for you. You take Warlock, Pact of the Fathomless. So when you take that Fathomless Warlock, what you're doing is you're generating a Jack Sparrow-esque backstory of you raising your ship. And then you got the Swashbuckler, you got the what's the wrong one for? You got the Warlock part, and you got those combined, and it makes a really good build. Another good build that I've done is, when it comes to Rogue, is Swashbuckler with Grung as the race, and it was either, because you can do it one of three different ways. You can do Hunter, Colossal Slayer, Ranger. You can do Gloomstalker Ranger, and there's a third one you can do it on. I just can't remember what the third one is, third subclass. But pretty much what you do is you take the dual wielder feat, you take your fighting style as 2-weapon fighting, you take the poisoner feat, the piercer feat, you make sure you take Hunter's Mark as one of your spells when you get at level 1. And then you take I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it for the damage. But it equates to, when you have the 1d8 from Hunter's Mark, or the 1d6 from Hunter Mark, you get twice because of doing double damage with your rapiers. Because you got to take rapiers too. Then you get the 2d8 from the rapier. You get the 1d8 from the subclass. You get, if they fail to save, you get a 1d4 or a 1d6. I can't remember what Poisoner does. And then you get a 1d4 for the Grung poison. But it adds up quick. I mean, I've one shot at a fairly low level with this build. It's a fun build. Doesn't take a lot to do. At most you need 6 levels, 3 for the ranger, 3 for the rogue. You can also go where 5 for the ranger, 3 for the rogue, so you need a minimum of 8 levels. You can really cap it off at 10 if you add 2 levels of fighter to get action surge. Now, how is that going to be impacted with a null ranger? Nice. Not a big fan of myself of homebrew, and I haven't seen an official null yet, so let me know how that works. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of homebrew myself. I've been burnt by players utilizing it in the past. So with my games that I run, I have outright banned all homebrew. Even like the closest thing that I run that is homebrew is I play 5th edition specifically. I'm not playing. As of right now, I've chosen not to play 5.5, or as they're calling it, D&D 2024. But yeah, that it's just a preference of mine. I'm not going to play that just because I've seen what they've done to it, and I'm not a fan of a lot of the changes they've made. But when it comes to 5e, that's where my bread and butter is. I've pretty much have every rule memorized to where I've been teaching new players for years on how to play the game. Yeah, homebrew, like if it's not coming from Wizards of the Coast, that's exactly what I do. What for you into 40K? Can you explain what you mean, Darnell? I'm not really understanding your question. Are you asking what drew me into 40K? What drew me into 40K was mainly just because I was playing Star Wars Legion with my brother. And I really enjoyed the skirmish game of that aspect. And I knew about 40K for a while. I just never actually played it. Still haven't actually played an official game. I'm building my first army now, which is these Tyranids. So the Star Wars 5e, I'm not even calling it that because that's not even what it is. I'm not a fan of it. I've seen it. I've read everything about it. I don't, like I said, I am not a fan at all of homebrew. There's a very fine line. And what I mean by homebrew, I even mean third-party content. Take, for instance, there's a third-party book that Wizards of the Coast, to this day, is not even approving as official content from Critical Role. So they've included the Wild Mount. Mass Effect, yes, I am. Haven't played it in years. After 3 it dropped. But what I was saying was, it's not the Wild Mount book, but it's the other Critical Role book. Wizards of the Coast has still said that that is not canon and not an official bit of content. I'm drawing a blank on what it's actually called now, but pretty much I refute Tal'Dorei. That's it. Pretty much I don't even allow what's in that book because while I love Matt Mercer, I love what he's done for the brand and for the community. His builds, or his ability to, how do I want to word this? His ability to generate appropriate content when it comes to balancing is an issue. And you're right, the D&D handbook does say that it's not the end-all be-all of rules. However, if you want to play in my games, that is the rule. You will only use just like any DM, you'll only use the content that we allow. Some DMs may allow everything that has ever been published. Others, like myself, will only stick to what is official D&D source material. And that is because we have learned that there's a balancing issue. If you take a third-party content, like Tal'Dorei, for example, and you bring in the races that was added into Tal'Dorei, and then you take the main, let's say up to Tasha's, every race up to Tasha's, there's going to be a balancing issue there, to where the Tal'Dorei one, even though it's not meant to, is different. So D&D has changed drastically since 06. 06 was 3.5, if I remember correctly. When it launched to 4E, a lot changed in that. And then even now in 5E, they have simplified it specifically for new players. Like, that's one thing that not a lot of people understand when it comes to D&D, is that 5e is made for the new players. It was made to bring more people in after everybody left for 4e. I don't understand your statement there, Dragon. What do you mean they made it less fun? It's still fun. If you played 4E, okay, I was about to say, if you played 4E, nobody liked that at all. So 5E is the closest we're going to get comparable to 3E, because 4E changed it completely on its head. And this is coming from somebody that's played every single edition. I'm only 30, but I have played every edition, because you have those DMs that will only play. There was a 4.5. Are you considering Pathfinder 4.5? Because I've never seen or heard or referenced a 4.5. I know 3.5 was around. And then what ended up happening was 4 came out, and then Pathfinder came out shortly after 4, because nobody was enjoying 4, and then 5e came out about a year after that. Snake River, thank you for joining. See, I got all of the 5e handbooks, and I've researched a lot of the others just because I have played, like I said, other editions. I've never once heard of a 4e, or 4.5, I should say. 4.5 is what I'm referring to. I've never once heard anybody refer to that. I know they considered Pathfinder originally as 4.5, just because, like first edition Pathfinder, just because they wanted to call it something to where it was seen as an upgrade to 4E. But I've never heard anybody say that there was an official Wizards of the Coast 4.5, unlike what we have right now with D&D 2024. That is the official 5 point. So it's being let me rephrase that. It's being labeled as 5e 5.5 or 5.5. You're going to have to send me a link to that handbook, Dragon, because I've never once heard that, because there's no way anybody actually played that, because that would be too broken. It was technically listed as Dungeons and Dragons Essential. See, I'm pretty sure that was just their website that they used for 4E. Because I remember Dungeons and Dragons Essential being their website. I've never once heard of this 4.5. Now, this 2024, this is what they were referring to as, oh, you mix the rules. See, that would be an issue for me specifically, only because of how drastically between first edition and 3.5 changed. Pulling an idea from an older edition, yeah, that works. But taking an actual rule from like first edition and applying it to 3.5, that doesn't really work, just because of how large of a power scale that was in between. But people do it all the time. Take 5e. Everyone takes flanking still. Flanking has not been a mechanic in 5e at all. It's not even listed as an alternative maneuver in any official handbook. Well, no, it doesn't depend on how you play. That's an actual truth. There is no flanking mechanic in 5e at all. There's no official mechanic. So yeah, you can take it from 3.5, like a lot of people do. But that all comes down to what the DM allows. If the DM states all rules have to come from 5e, you have to follow that rule. Otherwise, you're just going to get booted from the table. I booted several for trying to use flanking. Because I've explained to them, you got new players sitting right next to you who have never touched a single edition in their life. We're trying to make this easy for them, which is what 5e is about. Making things simplistic for new players. And they kept trying to bring in 3.5 rulings, so I booted them out. Flanking does make combat more dynamic. Now, if I'm playing with people that have played 3.5 or have thoroughly understood how the flanking system worked in 3.5, then yeah, I will allow it. But if I'm teaching new players, I'm not using it. It's easier for them, from what I've seen, because I use D&D Beyond. I have every single book on Beyond. Almost. And I think I'm missing like the last 2 books. But what I do is I make sure that all my players have access to the books I own. This way they can sit down, read the books on their spare time, learn things. If they have questions, they know to go and look in Sage Advice or what's the word I'm looking for? Sage Advice or reach out to me. You stick to one set of rules. Are you referring to like one edition set of rules or like a list of rules that you've written down for it? Because like I've done both. And that's why I switched solely to doing the 5e rulings. Because even in 5e, things have changed. Don't even get me started on the 5e tools. So there is a lot of misinformation in 5e tools because it is not updated properly. I had a DM that solely used 5e tools, and we found 32 weapons that were listed in 5e tools whose properties, coin cost, and damage dice, and like I said, all their properties did not match at all. It gives you a loose set of information, but if it's not matching, that's the issue because it's being pulled from different editions because it gets down to the Wikipedia as well. So, for instance, I've gone in detail with this with somebody else. So, if you play, say, a homebrew game set in Waterdeep, let me give you an example. So, if you take this Sword Coast Adventures Guide, that has some detail for Waterdeep. However, if you're trying to keep it specifically to how Waterdeep is ran, you need the Waterdeep adventure book because that has every law that Waterdeep has in it. Now, here's where things get funny. I had a friend of mine in one of my servers that I was playing in because I play on Discord via Play by Post. And I knew the laws because I had both. So I was looking at the laws, everything like that. And this, because it was ran by several DMs at a time. And what ended up happening was they tried to arrest my character for theft when he didn't steal anything because they didn't like me. Now, here's where it gets funnier. I knew the laws of Waterdeep, and where I was, there were no laws. And I pointed that out. And I pointed out because here's how widely the lore has changed. In 3.5 Waterdeep, if you are a dragonborn, if you are a dragon of any kind, you could not enter Waterdeep. However, with 5e, you can if you're a dragonborn or anything beyond an actual. If your species type, such as humanoid, does not list dragon, you can enter. It's right there in the Waterdeep book, or the Waterdeep adventure book, I should say. Now, I fought this person multiple times because they were taking information from a Reddit post made by the creator who thought up of the Faerun and Waterdeep. Here's why that issue is an issue. They're going solely off the Wikipedia page that he runs. However, he sold the rights to Waterdeep and everything like that before Faerun even existed. He sold it for $1,000, so he has no claim to it. And me and my friend, we literally fought for months about that, and I literally gave them an exact article of it was like a recording where They literally said, where the creator of Faerun literally said, yeah, I sold it. I have no rights to Faerun now. And they still wanted to state that I was giving false information, and then they kicked me out of the server. I had to literally argue with or work with the owner of the server to get me back, and I presented him all the information, and yeah. That person got immediately removed from their role because I'd given accurate information, whereas they did not. And you're right, Dragon, your world, your rules. However, you want to keep those rules consistent. If you're using 5e rules, you don't want to go back and swap it up and say, oh, I'm going to use 3.5 right now. I've had DMs do that on me. I've also had a DM look me dead in the eyes and allow players to do one thing and then do another. Yeah, face to face is always the best option. I do not have that luxury where I am. It's not as popular where I am. We might get a couple people that want to do face to face here, but majority of them, due to time constraints, prefer play by post, specifically West Marches. For those of you that do not know what a West March is, it's fairly simple. A West March is a D&D campaign ran by multiple people at one time. You could have 6, 7, 8 different DMs playing at the same time, with one main quest ran by the owner of the server that you're doing the play-by-post on, and side quests ran by the other 7 DMs. The good thing about West March servers is even if you're not sitting there actively playing, you can still be playing. So, for instance, say there's a quest going on, or there's a side quest that popped up on the server, and the time frame does not match up with when I will be on to do the quest. Like, say I wake up 30 minutes after the quest, or I'm at work during the quest, I can at least still be in there role playing with my friends from the server. And majority of the time, the DM will have, or the owner of the server will have some ruling of, hey, if you're role playing and you can, they'll have a bot that'll show us how often we were actually active and role playing in the server. If you can show your role playing, they may give you some experience for that week for role playing. It's not for everyone, really, but it's how I play, or how I play as a player, I should say, mostly. Mainly because of, like I said, time constraints. Being a father and working a 9 to 5, I really don't got time to sit there and play a 6-hour campaign and then come and paint my miniatures and then still have time to spend with my family. So while it's not for everyone, it is an option for those that do not have the time to do it. And personally, it's a fun option because you still get that interaction with people. I've had full-blown campaigns where through these play-by-post West Marches where they did different things. I've had some where they do weekly challenges, like skill tests, so that you can gain coin and everything like that if you don't got time to do the quests. I've been in others where if you're not active, they may kick you out just because you're potentially making it harder for the DM and owner to figure out who all is playing, who all is being active. Um, and I've been in some where the DM has straight up said, look, we're not going to allow this person in because of personal reasons, and I've left those type of groups. The one that we're looking into right now, or that me and my friend are looking into right now, he's about to start running. I got to figure out if it's a play-by-post or not. But if it is, the main campaign he mentioned to me is that the big bad evil guy is hiring some of the main party some of the party to kind of be his spies. And he knows how I like to play. And he looked me dead in the eyes and goes, hey, look, I know you like to play kind of on the chaotic side. Like, yes. He's like, how would you like to play a spy? I'm like, keep going. He's like, you're going to be working for the big bad evil guy. I'm like, say no more. As long as I get to mess with the players, that's all I care about. It's like, okay. No, I mean, there's a lot that you can do in D&D nowadays. I'll be honest, some of the changes that they made for 5e, I personally wasn't a fan of. Take the Tasha's custom lineage and all that. I'm not a fan of that, but that's because, once again, I'm not a fan of homebrew content. When you break down how the custom lineage and all that works, if you use custom lineage, custom background, and custom origin, you're essentially making a homebrew race. And that, to me, makes it an issue because you're still taking the physical aspect of, say, an orc, but you're giving yourself all the traits of, say, a dragonborn. Now, it's grown on me somewhat, just because I have been using it more and more, because I prefer a lot of the newer races that have been released, but that's mainly because I got bored of playing the same 6 races, well, 9 races with 5e. So I've been playing them more and more. The one thing that did bother me the most with 5e was, honestly, instead of just stating that these races, it does, but that's what the background is, or that's what your backstory is for as well. You don't need to fully change your aspects, because if you're playing a orc, you're already meant to be strong and everything like that. But that's where your stats come in as well. 5e made it to where, instead of just going down the line, you choose where your stats go, even if you're rolling for them. So if you want to play a Raven Guard, ain't the best. If you want to play an orc that's not very strong, you still get that +2 to strength, but you can just toss in a 10 for your strength, and you're right there. But no, and like I was about to say, I see where you're coming from too. I've been using it in all flaws just because a lot of the classes I'm using now and a lot of the games I'm playing are requiring Multiverse Madness. A lot of the groups I'm joining are no longer allowing legacy races. So if you have the player's handbook races that were adjusted they're no longer allowing those. They're only allowing the Multiverse of Madness races. Now, there's some things that I wish that they would have fixed. For instance, if you actually look and read through Multiverse of Madness, they did change how the claws of the beast races work as natural weapons, but they only changed it on the ones in. What do you mean the variant human custom lineage option? Are you meaning the +1 to all stat, or the +1 to another stat, and then the feat? So what you're doing is, yeah, so I mean that's exactly the same thing as just a regular human then. No, Dragon, you're misunderstanding what we're saying. So no one's saying that you're not able to play whatever race you want. Multiverse of or Monsters of the Multiverse changed. It was either 32 or 33 different races. Now, these changes, every single one of them made it to where you have to use the Tasha's custom lineage, where you choose what the stat increase is, you choose what the height of your creature is between medium and small, and there's a lot of difference in there. I recommend looking into it a lot more because there is a lot that goes into it, even down to what languages you speak. So like with custom lineage, you can be an orc who speaks only Common and Elvish, but you don't get the orc language, and you can make it to where you get a +2 in Dex and a +1 in Charisma, or a +1 in 3 different stats. That's what custom lineage really does. No one's saying that you can't play whatever race you want. What we're saying is there's some groups out there where since Monsters of the Multiverse came out, you can only play if your race had a change in Monsters of the Multiverse. So let's say, for instance, Satyr. I know that was one of them. The original Satyr that came out in Mystical Odysseys of Theros is now labeled as Legacy Satyr. And then they're considering the Monsters of the Multiverse as the new and improved Satyr, but also the one that you should be using. A lot of people are making it to where you can only play the Monster of the Multiverse version, not the original one, because it's more of a balanced system with what started to launch with Tasha's. Because see, after Tasha's came out, every single race that's been released since then has gotten that custom lineage. So they went back, looked at like I said, 32 or 33 most popular races that have been played in adventure leagues, took those races and put them in this one book. You would have to, that's not possible for one in 5e at all. Centaur and Elf are their own race. So you'd have to either choose to take the abilities that you see from the Centaur, or you'd have to choose to be an elf. And you'd have to choose which elf you are, because there's multiple different elves. Let me get a drink real quick. Mount Scarecrow, thank you for joining. And then it also comes down to the campaign setting. You got a lot of players now, a lot of DMs now who wear, because we finally got some Spelljammer races like the GIF and the Hadanese and the Plasmoids. Since those are more spatial races, they're not allowing them to be played in more of a Fey run field or campaign because it doesn't fit with the setting. Like I said, it all comes down to what your DM allows. If your DM allows it, then that's great. That's more power to you to play what you want with that. However, the Centaur Elf, you're gonna have an issue. I've done that. I have done that. I took a Thurkreen, and all I did was make him a cannibal. And make him... So I took Thurkreen... Well, let me rephrase that. I took Dampier, and then since you pick what you look like, I took Thurkreen. So I was Thurkreen vampire, essentially. Feasting on dreams. Like, that's what my hungered for. Now you make me want to go back and redo that, because now that's an even better idea. But yeah, so like I was saying though, Dragon, it's not really that people are saying you can't play what you want. It's what is balanced. And you may have played one, but in 5e, there is no official elven centaur. You can say that you are a centaur with pointed ears, but that's just a centaur, is what I'm saying. Because even that's the physical description in 5e, is you are half humanoid, half equestrian, and you have pointed ears. That is the literal description. But with these new rulings, with that Legacy Edition, or the Tasha's... Yep, that's exactly it. Fey-like features, but horse, man, woman. And correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, didn't they go back and redo Centaur as well to make them humanoid, because they used to be listed as Fey, and they were the only Fey? Yeah, see, that was the stupidest idea, because they were the only Fey besides Fairy with Wild Beyond Witchlight. And they changed that, and then they made Changeling. No, they only get one. That was a hard rule that they had to make sure of, is that you only get one. You don't get both. You only get the one. Satyrs, I know they changed strictly to Fey. And a lot of people do like 3.5 better. But at the same time, you have to look into it at what 5e is. 5e was made specifically because they were losing sales with 4e. So they did keep it as Fey. Okay. That's good, though. That is good. That is exactly their lore, is that they're Fey-like creatures. They were losing so much sales with 4e because nobody was buying it. So they redid it. They made it more simplistic for new players. You can take 5e right now and teach it to middle schools. Exactly. It's all streamlined. It's gotten even more streamlined with the 2024. 2024, like I was saying, is now. This is what Wizard of the Coast says. 20 D&D 2024 is not, I'm using air quotes on purpose, not one D&D. It is not 6th edition. Which begs the question, if it's not one D&D but you're using all of the one D&D playtest that you've released for the past 2 years with 2024, why is it now one D&D? But all it is it's really just D&D 5.5. Not much difference is going to take place. That is legitimately what it is. So that's another thing, Matt, that would not work because of the fact that those two are two different races. Now, if you'd say, had they made, and this is exactly what they should have done. The Nids are going good. I only have 2 more after this one. This is exactly what I've been saying forever. Had they made Warforge its own lineage, just like they did with Dampier, Hexblood, and Revenant? Correct me if I'm wrong, AJ. Isn't that third one that released in Van Richten's? Had they made Warforge what's the word for now? I just said it too. It's not a legacy. It's a what's the word I'm looking for, AJ? You know what I'm talking about. Starts with an L. Kind of. Yeah, it's kind of like an ancestry. Had they made it like an ancestry, which was what 3.5's version was. That's what this all is. With the Dampier, the lineage. That's it. Had they made Warforge a lineage, you could totally have done that. And I even said that. I'm like, that is the stupidest thing they could have done, is not give them a lineage to where you could be a Warforge that looks like a human. Now, of course, you can make a Centaur Warforge, but you're not going to get the Centaur traits. You're going to get the traits of the Warforge. Or you could say that you are a Centaur, but you are metallic, but you're not going to get the Warforge traits. You're only going to get the Centaur traits. And that's really the issue, is that they're getting lazier and lazier. Thank you for the follow, Max. I appreciate it. Take, for instance, and I've been saying this since Tasha's. Like I said, I was not a big fan of Tasha's whenever it came out. I liked the small changes that they did to the classes that they helped boost, because then we actually got good Ranger classes for once in the past 6 years that D&D 5e was out. But the issue was, thank you, I appreciate that. But like I was saying, the big issue is they're getting lazy. My issue with Tasha wasn't that they were making it to where it was more homebrew. Even though that was a big issue for me personally, because like I said, I hate homebrew. I have had people bring homebrew, and this is coming from somebody who I've given multiple and countless attempts to allow homebrew. Now, I'm perfectly fine if you're going to reskin something. Like I said, if you want to reskin a centaur to look like a Warforged but have all the centaur qualities, go for it. If you want to reskin a centaur or Warforged to look like a centaur but have all the Warforged qualities, go for it. But I've had people literally come to me saying, I want to play this specific race. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so you want to be a werewolf, and we're getting the puzzle piece. And I'm looking over it, and they're wanting to do 1d12 with their claws. I'm like, hold on, there isn't even a single weapon out there that's common that does 1d12 that I know of beyond two-handed great axe. I was like, you're not going to play that. I'm not lying. And then they threw a tantrum and walked out. Never saw them again. I've had others that have came up to me, and this is why I also put in my DM rules that I will not allow you to play a copyrighted character. I have had people who have specifically, and you see it all the time on TikTok and on YouTube and Facebook, where that guy's talking about how your character's looking really familiar. I don't have a problem if you take an idea from it. For instance, like I said, I've literally ran a Jack Sparrow-esque character as my main rogue backstory. My issue is when you come to me and say, hey, I'm going to be playing Ben Tennyson, spelled exactly how it is. He's playing a changeling, and he's like, I'm going to take 10 of these. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was going to say, but that's what he wanted to do for his claw attack. His claws, like his legitimate claws. And I was like, you're not going to do that. But I've had somebody actually come up to me and say, I want to play Ben Tennyson. I've also had 3 players come up to me and tell me, we are going to play 3 sisters named Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. And they handed me their sheets, and these were fully homebrewed. Like, these weren't just like, okay, I'm going to choose a race, a class, and take everything I know of this one character. They're like, here's a homebrewed race. And I'm looking, I'm like, you're not going to play that because you're getting flight, you're getting a Dragonborn's breath weapon at level 1, and you're getting telekinesis and a +6 to your strength. We're not allowing that. So I've even tried to allow homebrew in one-shots, and I've ran into similar situations where they did not know how to balance. That's the big issue with homebrew to me, is they do not know how to balance it. If you, I'll even say this, if you go through D&D Beyond and look at their homebrew races and classes, you would be surprised at the amount of unbalanced buffoonery there is on that site. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's going to be like, oh, well, this person wants to play a witch, and it's like one level, they get this, and this. No, I'm talking about like they want to start off as powerful as they can. But that's the issue. Even on Reddit, it's the same way, because everything that you see on Reddit is coming from D&D Beyond. There is, outside of weapons, there is no balanced content. I hate to say it, but there really isn't. You can make a subclass, you can make a class, but it's not going to be balanced because you don't know how the algorithm works to build it. unless you sit there and look at the entire party dynamic, which you're not going to have. There's a few. I will say that there is a few. However, once again, you're going to run into the same issue because you got those content creators that are giving the information out that they made. Laser Llama is okay. I'm not going to say that he's fully balanced, but because he's not. I will say that he's not fully balanced. He knows what he's doing. My issue with Laser Llama is similar to how fans see what's his name? I do that. Hang on. Similar to how fans see Matt Mercer as the end-all be-all of D&D. The homebrew community sees Laser Llama as the end-all be-all of homebrew. And you're right. He is far better than every single one of them that make homebrew. And yes, if you make homebrew, I am calling you out on that. You need to learn how to balance it. You need to learn how to. Brendan Lee Mulligan is excellent at making homebrew. He is one of the few that I can think of that actually has it down. But the reason that he does it well is he makes his. It's not like Matt. It's not like Wizards of the Coast. He makes his own systems. That's why it's balanced for Brendan. Whereas if you look at Matt, he's taking 5e. And he's outright said this. He's like, I'd make my own rules. I took 5e, I made my own rules. That's it. And that's fine. That's exactly what it says in the book. That's what led to the whole uprising last year or 2 years ago with the OSL, was that everyone was in a tizzy because they thought that they were going to lose their content when in reality they weren't. They couldn't because of one sentence in the D&D handbook that your rules are final. The only difference was you couldn't make money off of it if it had passed. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like SW5E is it's a weird one. It's third-party content, but at the same time, I haven't even seen it sold in stores yet, so we don't even know how it's being distributed. But no, I mean, I got no issue if you play homebrew. All I ask is that if you are playing in one of my campaigns, you respect my rules, that I do not allow it. I've had too much bad blood where people have had issues with me not allowing it because they were completely unbalanced. I had one who actually ran a full smear campaign on me because I didn't allow them to play what was it? It was completely crazy of an idea that they thought I would even allow it. It was like they wanted to play a werebeast, and it was either a were-shark, because I've had both of these happen. It's either a were-shark or a were-T-Rex. Now, both of these that they tried to pass on. Exactly. Respect rules, respect each other, respect everyone. That's all you have to do to have fun with D&D. If the DM says, we're not allowing this, but we will allow this, take the compromise or don't play. It's simple as that. So for instance, I've played a lot with, like a lot of the friends I play with, I've played in a lot of campaigns with them. One of them that I've been trying to work with them because their biggest downfall is not creating what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty much they're just copying and pasting the whole, and AJ, you probably know this clan since you've been playing for years, the whole Dark Star Orc tribe. Every bit of lore that there is on them on Wikipedia, they're just copying and pasting that as their backstory and putting in the line, I was born to this clan. I went on an adventure. For years, I was trying to help this guy adjust that. I was like, dude, you can't just keep playing the same clan over and over and literally calling yourself the same name. I was like, the game is about creativity. You have to have some level of it. Now, I know you're smart. I know you can think of something different. And I had to make a rule in my games. Now, this is the only homebrew rule that I've ever done that I came up with for that campaign specifically because he refused to change it. Well, that's the thing. This was literally, it was the same character starting from level 1 each time. It was always a half-orc, berserker, barbarian. That's all it was. It wasn't even overpowered or anything like that. But I had to explain to him, you have to come up with something different. I was like, at least try to multi-class. He's like, well, I've never multi-classed. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to fix that. I put in my rules that at any time, to my discretion, you could have to take a multi-class. That was the only homebrew rule I've ever made. And my players liked it enough that it stuck through my entire campaigns. How this was achieved was the campaign was the party was going on into a town hunting down a murderer. And they find him, and turns out he's a fiend. Well, he made the guy that never changed his character, made a pact with him. So upon level up, I told him you have to take that level on Pact of the Fiend. You just have to. I mean, you've literally legitimately signed. Like he signed it on his own. I didn't tell him to sign it or anything like that. I just presented him the contract. He signed the contract. It's like you literally signed a contract without reading it. You've made a pact with the Fiend. I told you that whenever you signed it. And I even asked, are you sure? So he signed it. He had to take that. From then on, he had a blast because he didn't realize, oh, Barbarian and thank you, Bunny. Barbarian and Warlock are actually really fun together. I figured you were at work. We were just finishing up this guy real quick. I gotta go grab one thing, and then we can continue working on him. All we have left to do is a drool effect. I do see a couple of things I gotta do on it. If you haven't noticed, Bunny, we're actually in a new environment. We are moved into our new quote unquote studio. The missus cleaned up the playroom. So that's a great question, AJ. I'll show you in a second after I explain the bunny. So the missus cleaned up low man's playroom, and we had a desk that we weren't using. She's like, hey, go use that desk. I use this UV resin. So all you do is you take the resin. I use a toothpick. I get it hard first, and then I start to pull it down. I'll show you how I do it here in a second. I just see a couple of touch-ups I need to do real quick. So you can swirl it. There's a lot you can do. Bad dice. Thank you for the baby Diney or the tiny Dineys. Rar, 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 rar. Rar. So rar, we have finally reached our goal. You guys get to pick the next Tyranid box that I buy for the army. So let me know what you guys want for the Tyranids. They do have to be tournament accessible. And they have to be able to be purchased. It has to be able to be purchased either at a Games Workshop store or online. So, Dice, since you dropped all 6, I'll let you shoot me a DM and let me know what Tyranid we are going to buy. I'll be right back as I got to go grab that toothpick. That's why I forgot to grab. Let me do this real quick because I do see two things I can pop this in on. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. Carnifex. Okay. I'll see what I can do with that. Chunky Monkey, thank you for joining. So, AJ, you still there? Okay. So I'm going to have to turn it real quick so that I can get to where I need to do for this. So I'm just going to dab that on there. I'm just going to pull this down. I'm going to let it pop back up. I'm just going to keep doing it like that. And there we have it. So we can leave it there, or we can go even further. Yes, you can. They have a specific ink out there specifically for UV resin. Now, what I like about that one is I didn't even do that on purpose. The whole curvature, that just sort of happened. So yeah, that one is now done. And what you can do for an easy cleanup, so take your UV, just shine it in there for a little bit. And you get it all out in one swoop. And that was the last one we had for the UV. We could do one on the other two. We might do it on the one with the two handguns. We'll see. But yeah, the next thing we're gonna do, Bad Dice, thank you for the hearts. I appreciate it. The next thing we're gonna do is probably gonna be Dreadstone Arden after we finish these next two up. And then we also got this one right here. We still gotta paint up. And then I showed this in a live the other night with some friends. This was going to be the 500 subscriber miniature. However, if you look closely, it is in very poor condition. And I do not feel right giving this away to the 500 subscribers. This is after I wash, mind you. Yes, that's the Frameworks Elf Ranger. So I'm not sure what this was or this, because these came from Temu. Now this one came in. The only thing that was really bad about it was the feet. I had to add an additional support down there, but I can easily paint that to look like bricks. This one, however, this is the one where it was taking forever to get. I was really excited because I loved how this model looked online. Like I said, this is a Temu model, and this is after cleaning. I mean, there's still a lot of flash down here on the legs, on the underbelly, I can't even tell if some of this is supports or if this is supposed to be rope. But I reached out to the winner, and I told him, I'm letting you make the decision, because if I give you this, I'm not going to feel right giving you it unless you approve. I sent him a picture and he was like, did you clean it? I'm like, this is after cleaning. And online, that face was far more detailed than it is. I mean, I can't even make it out. So what we're going to do for the 500 one is we're going to do Rocket and Groot from Marvel Crisis Protocol for him. His favorite superhero is Groot, or Rocket, I should say. So we are going to be doing that for him. let's move on to the next one. Ooh. But yeah, you can add inks to them. You can add they make specifically UV resin inks that you can use for those. I don't own any currently, but you could totally get one and use it. For that UV resin to make it a different color. Now I haven't tried it with paint. So I won't. I'm not going to tell you to go out and use your paint to color in that UV resin because I've not tried it. I'm not going to give you guys false information. Now, if I had the inks, I'd be adding a different color. I'd be adding some sort of mucus green to it. Yeah, washes probably could do it. Once again, though, I'm not gonna tell you guys to go out there and do it just because I've never done it, and I'm not gonna sit there and give you guys false information. That's not how I am. That's not how I roll at all. I want to make sure that you guys are getting correct and precise information as much as I can give it. Yeah, we only got these two left, and then we will move on. Dice, if you're still in here, like I said, since you dropped all 6 Tiny Dinies today, you get to pick what we build. I know Dragon mentioned a Carnifex. If you think that would be a good idea, let me know. It does have to be a Tyrannid because this is for our army that we're building. We are going to be doing solely Tyranids. We could do the Gene Stealers that the Tyranids have. Which color or which part of the Covenant, though? You gotta remember, each race has a different color point. All the way down to even the elites having different ones for each tribe. The grunts had different ones for their squads as well. Regular blue elites, okay. I could see that working. This color scheme is actually given to us by Dragon himself. I remember you saying that, Dice. My son, whenever I showed him the Tyranids for the first time, I said, "Hey, you want to see some bugs?" He goes, "No." And I showed him it, just to see what his reaction was. He goes, "Dad, that's not a bug. That's a dinosaur." I'm like, "No, really? Actually, they're bugs, buddy." He goes, "No, I know a dinosaur when I see one. I love dinosaurs." So once again, guys, let me know what figure you want me to paint up next since you did all 6 Tiny Dinies, and we will do it. Okay, no problem. Take your time. I won't have the money for it for a while anyway. Whew. Now, how's everyone doing tonight? Give me 1 second, everyone. Sorry about that. The missus needed me. Whew. But whatever our next Tyranid that Dice chooses is going to have the same color scheme, so I gotta definitely get more of these paints because I mean that's pretty good. I know I got another one of this. It's the red wash I'm a little worried about. I don't know how much I still have left of that. Maybe about half of a bottle. But the same color scheme is going to go on them. But which Gantz? So I do have a Warhammer store that's pretty close to my work. I could easily stop by on lunch, pick them up, or I could do it after work if I convince my parents to pick up a little man, because my parents are 15 minutes from my house, and my son actually goes to the same daycare my stepmom works at. So, I could just have her take him home with her one night. Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, which Gantz, though, Dragon? You got the Hornigants, you got the Barbagants, and then you have the Termagants. Blad. So the Barbagants, okay. AJ, you have a good night, buddy. I'm going to try to see if I can't finish this one tonight before I got to jump in the shower and go to sleep myself. Now, more Gaunts is definitely the option we're going to go with eventually. Mainly because the idea behind because we've given it a name, is High Fleet Hephaestus Blade. So, Hormagaunts, okay. Yeah, the Hive Fleet is named Hephaestus. I couldn't think of any monsters that were not used from Greek mythology or even Norse mythology at that. So I chose to use a god instead, and that's how I got its name. Yep. Exactly that. And the idea behind this specific Hive fleet, because each Hive fleet has its own purpose, is that they are specifically made for worlds that are made out of lava. They will eventually have a lava base. I just have to get the basic material for them. Some of them like that. This one, where it's got a piece of rebar. It's still going to be from a volcanic world, but it's obviously going to have some inhabitants. It's not going to be a death world. But that is the lore of this specific custom Hive fleet. Joe Breeze, thank you for joining. If you see me looking up, I'm just keeping an eye on the time and my percentage, because even though we are in a new area, I could bring something to charge my phone on. I could really do it on that as well if I just flip it around. Because all I'm using is an old phone charger, stand-up phone charger. I haven't tested that out yet though, so I don't want to ruin anything. Yeah, they will have a lava base. They are going to have how I'm doing the lore of these is they weren't even supposed to exist. They were supposed to be more of a subsect of the behemoths. But due to where their main ship landed, they just slowly evolved over time to be the Hive fleet that they are. And personally, I think it's coming along great. I mean, we got, where's the one I did today? Let's see, this one. No, it wasn't this one. It was it that one? No. Where's the one I did today? I mean, like I said, when we first started these, even the designs on the backs are changing on each and every one of these, just to give them each more personality. But the main reason why they got that red stripe going down their backs is to show that they've evolved from a different Hive fleet. I appreciate that, Dragon. Because like the goal is to eventually have one of every Tyranid there is. So we're going to run into a little bit of fun challenges once we get to the more larger Tyranids. Especially the ones that do have exposure of like brain matter and stuff like that. The reason why that's going to be fun is because we're going to have to decide how we're going to do it. What I mean by how we're going to do it is the actual basing of the colors. Because right now we're keeping it pretty simple. We got the green, we got the red, and we got the matte black with the red stripe down the back. Well, obviously we're going to keep that same color scheme going with the carapace. But when we get down to the ones with like the brain matter coming out, are we going to do that green? Are we going to do it a different color? We don't know yet. This one I'm not too happy with, but I do like how that differences out. It makes it look like more older, worn down carapace. And I don't even remember doing this one right here that way. What do you mean by that, Dragon? You can easily get them online or in the store, like the Norn Emissary. Or are you talking about the Forge World models that I'm not even bringing up because they're not even official? Okay. Yeah, so we're not even talking about those. You can still get some of them on Games Workshop's website, but I mean, I'm not paying $500 for one figure. That's idiocracy. Obviously, if I wanted to do it for a display piece, I would. Or for a commission, I would. But I'm not going to spend my own money on $500 worth of miniatures for one mini. I am more strategic with how I purchase stuff. For instance, that's what I'm saying. They're ridiculously expensive. Actually, I just noticed I didn't do this one's legs. I'm not going to drop $500 on one figure. Now, like I said, obviously, if it was for a commission, I would do my best to accrue it, but I'm not spending my own money on that. I've never heard of a Stone Crusher Carnifex. Once again, I am now just getting into this hobby. I've been painting the miniatures, but I've never actually gone through like the lore or anything like that. And Forge World, like I said, I prefer to support the actual company that makes the games. Even with D&D, I prefer to support Wizards of the Coast rather than support a third-party creator. That's just how I am. And the reason being is because the more that we support the actual creators, the more likely the creators will listen to us. They did buy Forge World. However, like I said, I'm not familiar with that specific Carnifex. But that buyout didn't happen until last year or this year. But and like that's where it gets a little bit muddied still with Forge World. It's a similar situation where. So I'm going to go to Discord for a second. So Discord has a bot that's a group of people made called Avre. What Avre is it is a D&D dice rolling bot. So you punch in specific commands, it generates your character sheet for you from D&D Beyond, or Google Sheet, or Roll20, whatever you're using, it will generate for you. Now, Wizards of the Coast reached out to the creators of the bot, and they bought it out. That's one way. Yep. There's also ways you can. So based on Geezy's response, I can tell he's used Avre. Geezy, there's also ways you can code Avre to put just in roll, and it'll roll your stats for you. You gotta have specific commands and everything like that. But like I was saying, Wizards of the Coast bought Avre from the creators, still kept them on, and made sure that they were satisfied with everything that they were doing. What ended up happening, though, with the Wizards of the Coast one anyway, is Avre's original developers are still in the how do I remember this? Avre's developers are still involved. However, Wizards of the Coast owns it. From my understanding, it is a similar relationship with Forge World and Games Workshop. So utilizing Forge World, you're still supporting Games Workshop regardless. So that's not bad, but when you delve into third-party content, such as those that are creating custom Tyranids, and what I mean by custom is you can go on like eBay or Fiverr and find the STL files for them, and they're just titled Xenonid or whatever. They're trying to get around being called a Tyranid, because if they use the word Tyranid, they're going to get sued. I saw blatantly, obviously, they were trying to get around it because there was one that was literally just the Termagant model. So yeah, like I said, I prefer to support the original creator. That's just me, though. If you want to utilize it, and believe it or not, that was one of them as well. Geezy, it was legitimately that. Like I said, if you want to use proxies, that's all fine. I have no issue with you using proxies there. I have no issue with you supporting third party. However, that's just not me. I've had many discussions with people in the D&D community, especially when OSL was launched, and the OSL issue was launched, and people were up in arms about supporting third-party content. I don't use third-party content. I don't make third-party content. wasn't an issue with me. I understand why people would get upset. However, this starts to get into a slippery slope conversation because then we got people that will outright insult others. So what I'm going to ask is that if you do support third party, exactly. It's the same way with D&D. When I started playing D&D, just like it still is now to this day, you could literally play anything you wanted. It just depended on what the DM ruled. If your DM says that, hey, yeah, you can play that, I'll use Dragon's example, an Elven Centaur, but you're going to have to pick which race to play for systematic reasons. I get that. I've done it myself. But we have to also remember that we are playing a game created by a company. Be it D&D, be it Wizards of the Coast, or not Wizards of the Coast, be it D&D, be it games or Warhammer or any of the affiliated games with Warhammer, be it Star Wars Legion or Shatterpoint. We're playing a game generated and created by a company. So the less we support that company, the less they are going to generate stuff for the games. A perfect example is fantasy. I think it's Fantasy Factions that originally made Star Wars Legion before they sold it. They could not get anybody and that's a balancing issue. That's what it comes down to. Is you have to find a good balance when you add third-party content. That's why with D&D, I don't allow homebrew because nobody can balance it out. And Geezy, people said the same thing about Wizards of the Coast. Whenever the OSL was dropping and everybody was leaving the game because they felt that Wizards of the Coast was being unruly. It was the same thing then. However, we still got people buying all the D&D content from Wizards of the Coast and still supporting third party in the same way. It all comes down to a few things. Wizards is in a weird spot just because of how they're doing, and it's not even their issue. It's their parent company's issue. But that's what I'm saying, Dragon. I got no issue if you use proxies or not. I prefer not to, just because that's how I am. But once again, I have not heard of a Stonecrusher. Is that like an older edition? Well, see, Geezy, here's where you're getting mixed up with things. So, okay, so it is Forge World. Okay, that's what I thought we were talking about before. Geezy, here's where you're getting mixed up with things. So, Magic of the Gathering is not a company on its own. Magic the Gathering is a brand. So it's no different than Mountain Dew right here. Mountain Dew is a brand that is owned by PepsiCo. The only difference with Magic the Gathering is owned by Wizards of the Coast, who is owned by Hasbro. So Geezy, here's the issue I'm having with that, with you saying that Forge World is official. None of the Forge World models populate on the app. The only ones that pop up are the ones that Games Workshop has released. So I don't know if they changed that recently. The Warhammer app, where you can generate your own armies and everything like that. None of the others populate. The only ones that populate for Tyranids, because we got at least two. Even then, there's still none for Tyranids. That's what I'm saying. It can't be if the app that they have right now for 40K is being used in tournaments and none of the Forge World stuff is showing up. It can't be official. I mean, telling me to trust you is like telling me to just look out a window and just believe that the sky is green. I mean, it's not really. And what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really an official statement. Like, if you can find me an official statement and send it to me, I greatly appreciate that. I'd like to see it because from my understanding, based on what I've researched for the game since I got into it, Forge World models are not even allowed in tournaments. But it does. It's no difference than a ban list. The only difference is it literally states. See, now you're not making any sense. Because the only difference is it literally states in the rules, no Forge World for tournaments. That's not the same as a ban list, because what they're doing is they're going off of what's available on the app. And there's no list on the app that says, oh, you can use this Forge World or this Forge World. No, it just literally says, these are the official models. And you go down from each faction, click on the faction, and scroll through. And then you generate your army from that based on 3 different points. No, it sounds like it's unofficial because it's not even populating in the app. Because that's where everything gets convoluted for me. Why would a model the same size as a Norn Emissary be $400 more? All the app does, Geezy, is it makes it to where you can build your army. That's literally it. Geezy, you're making no sense about what's stopping me. Nothing's stopping me. What I'm saying is, based on what I've said in this live from nearly the beginning, is I only support official content. And from everything I've seen, Forge World is no longer official. Okay, you're making no sense, Keezy, once again. So we're going to change the subject. Because either you're getting agitated or I am. Okay, yeah, we're done. We're done with the live, guys. Have a good one.